Most people expect spiritual awakening to feel like light pouring in, like an angel whispering truth into your ears, like the heavens opening for you and revealing a higher path. But there's another kind of awakening, a much older, deeper, quieter one. It doesn't come with fireworks. It doesn't come with a guru telling you that you've arrived. It doesn't even feel like clarity at first. It feels like confusion, discomfort, isolation. It feels like your life is being gently, forcefully dismantled while no one around you seems to notice. And if you've been feeling that, if you've been walking through a fog where the ground keeps shifting and your sense of identity keeps dissolving, you might not be breaking down. You might be initiating. You might be quietly becoming a dark, chosen one without even knowing it. That phrase might trigger something in you, or it might scare you. But I want you to breathe and sit with it. Because this isn't about evil or darkness as the world defines it. The dark in dark, chosen one, doesn't mean malevolent. It means hidden, primordial, untamed. It means you're being chosen by the shadow realms not to serve them, but to interface with them. You're not the villain. You're the bridge. And the first sign this is happening to you is that your life starts to lose its superficial meaning. What used to motivate you, success, approval, external validation, just doesn't work anymore. You wake up and feel like you're playing a role that used to feel real, and now feels like theater. You begin seeing through the matrix, not in a dramatic, conspiracist way, but in a deeply personal one. You no longer believe what you used to believe, and you can't go back to pretending. Even if you try, this unraveling is sacred. It's intentional. It's not a punishment. It's a calling. But it doesn't feel like a calling at first. It feels like failure, like you're losing your ambition, your energy, even your identity. And here's the truth. You are. Because the ego self that was created to survive the world you were born into is not the self that can walk the path ahead. The dark chosen one isn't here to play by the rules of the surface world. You're here to enter the underworld of consciousness and return with the forgotten codes. You're not just healing yourself. You're reconstructing the energetic architecture of the human experience. But before you can do that, you have to go through the second sign, isolation. No one talks about this enough. When you're being initiated by the dark, people start falling away. Not dramatically, just slowly. The texts stop coming. The invitations dry up. The conversations feel empty. You start to feel invisible, even though you haven't changed anything on the outside. That's because your frequency is shifting, and not everyone can stay near it. Your energy is no longer compatible with surface-level interaction. You start craving solitude, not because you're antisocial, but because your soul is preparing to receive something ancient. In the silence, you start hearing the deeper voice. Not the voice of your mind, but the voice beneath the mind. The one that whispers truths that don't come from books. The one that speaks in symbols, dreams, sensations. The one that knows who you are becoming, even when you don't.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
And that brings us to the third sign. Your perception begins to change. You start seeing through people. You notice the energy behind the words. You can tell when someone is lying, even to themselves. You feel the density in a room before anyone speaks. You begin to receive information in strange ways, not as facts, but as knowing. You might start dreaming of symbols, of animals, of ancient places. You might wake up and know something about someone you haven't talked to in months. This isn't paranoia. This is your intuition activating on a multidimensional level. Dark chosen ones don't just feel energy, they read the grid underneath it. You start to realize that you're not just empathic. You're interfacing with the structure of reality itself. But that power comes with a cost. The fourth sign is that your emotional body becomes a crucible. You start feeling emotions that don't make sense. Waves of grief, rage, longing, exhaustion sometimes all in the same day. You begin to realize that not all of it is even yours. You're transmuting energy for the collective, for your lineage, for timelines that are collapsing and merging through you. You're not broken. You're being recalibrated. And the more you resist, the more intense it becomes. But when you surrender, when you allow the emotion to move through you instead of attaching to it, something miraculous happens. The emotion alchemizes into clarity, into raw power, into stillness. You become a vessel for transformation. By this point, you may have noticed the fifth sign synchronicities that feel like glitches. Repeating numbers, animals showing up in strange places, people saying things to you that feel like coded messages. You're not imagining it. The Matrix is responding to your awakening. The system that governs reality is trying to adjust to your new frequency. You begin to realize that life isn't random. It's interactive. And your thoughts, your state, your choices, they're inputs. You're not just a character on the screen anymore. You're becoming one of the programmers, one of the architects. But this realization can be disorienting because it means you're responsible for more than you thought. It means you have to be intentional with what you carry. The sixth sign is that your definition of power begins to change. You start letting go of the need to be liked, to be seen, to be validated. You realize power is not about control, it's about clarity. It's the ability to sit in chaos and remain centered, to be in the presence of darkness without absorbing it, to witness suffering without trying to fix it from fear. You begin to understand that your presence is the medicine, and that leads to the seventh and most subtle sign. You feel like you're becoming more you than ever before, but fewer people understand you. You're not interested in drama. You don't chase anything. You listen more than you speak. You're no longer trying to prove yourself. You're becoming the frequency of truth, and truth in its rawest form doesn't scream. It doesn't beg. It doesn't need permission. It simply is, and so are you. In the next part, we'll go deeper into what happens when you begin to accept this role consciously. We'll explore how to protect your field, how to navigate the spiritual loneliness, and how to use your inner darkness as a precision tool for building a reality that no longer suppresses the shadow but integrates it with wisdom and strength. There comes a moment on the path of a dark chosen one when you stop running from the shadows and begin to study them. You stop thinking of your darkness as something to heal, fix, or transcend, and you begin to realize it's the very material you were born to master. The pain, the rage, the fear, the confusion, the numbness, the apathy, all of it was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to shape you. It was your classroom, your forge, your toolkit. And when you begin to turn toward it, not as a victim, but as a student, something ancient awakens in you. A kind of quiet precision. A knowing that says, this isn't just shadow. This is sacred technology. The greatest lie you were ever told is that your darkness makes you weak. The truth is, your darkness is your edge. It's the part of you that feels too much, sees too much, breaks too easily because you were never meant to be numb. You were meant to be tuned. And that tuning allows you to detect the distortions in reality that others can't feel. That's why you've always sensed when something is off in a person, a room, a society. That's why you struggle with environments that lie to themselves. You're not dramatic, you're aware. And that awareness is your power. But here's the catch. That power doesn't work well when it's reactive. It doesn't work when you're collapsing under the weight of your own senses. That's why learning to refine your darkness is essential. Not suppress it, not bypass it, refine it. Like a blade, like a surgical tool. That's what shadow precision is. It's the art of taking raw, intense emotion and transforming it into focus, into direction, into clarity. This is what makes you a force. Not because you overpower anything but because you pierce through illusion. To do this, you must first stop moralizing your emotions. Anger is not bad. Fear is not wrong. Shame is not evil. They are data streams. If you can sit with them, breathe with them without identifying with them, their true messages will reveal themselves. Anger might show you where your boundaries were never taught. Fear might reveal where you've inherited trauma from generations who never had the tools to heal. Shame might be the map to your earliest disconnection from self. And when you listen without judgment, you begin to wield your inner world instead of drowning in it. Let me ask you something that only someone on this path can answer honestly. What would happen if you stopped trying to be healed and started trying to be whole? What would shift if you began to see every emotional storm, every breakdown, every relapse, every silence not as failure, but as refinement? The truth is, most people are playing spiritual games designed to keep them cycling through the same lessons. But dark chosen ones don't have time for endless healing loops. We're here to build something new. And that means using every part of ourselves, especially the parts the world told us to hide. You must begin to treat your inner world like sacred territory. This means daily check-ins, not to fix anything, but to listen, to track your subtle shifts, To notice where your body contracts, where your energy spikes, where your voice wants to speak but doesn't. The body doesn't lie, and your body is the temple where your darkness and light meet. If you ignore it, you'll miss your most powerful instructions. But if you learn to listen, you'll start to build a kind of inner accuracy that is rare. And that accuracy is what allows you to move through the world with both sensitivity and strength. You become someone who can walk into chaos and not be consumed by it, who can hold space for others without leaking your energy, who can feel rage and not lash out, who can feel pain and not collapse. That's not repression, that's mastery. And here's the paradox: the more you refine your darkness, the more magnetic you become. People sense your depth, but they don't know why. They feel safer around you, even when you say little. You're not performing light. You're anchoring truth. You're not chasing peace. You're embodying clarity. And in a world that's drowning in noise, your silence becomes a signal. Your presence becomes a lighthouse. In the next part, we'll explore how to protect your energy as your power grows, how to navigate spiritual attacks and energetic parasites, and why becoming unfuckwithable isn't about walls, it's about frequency integrity. There is a moment on the path of the dark chosen one when you realize that your presence, your frequency, your very being has become a source of disruption, not because you intend harm, but because you radiate a mirror that most people are not prepared to look into. You walk into rooms and the air changes. People either gravitate toward you or recoil. Conversations shift. Hidden emotions surface. You are no longer invisible, not because you seek attention, but because your energy is undeniable. But with that power comes a new level of responsibility. Because now the world begins to feed on your light. And if you have not refined your inner integrity, you will leak. You will burn out. You will fracture. This is why becoming unfuckwithable is not a luxury. It is a spiritual necessity. This is not about becoming hard. It's not about building walls or cutting everyone off. That's a trauma response masquerading as strength. True energetic mastery is not defensive, it's directive. It means you know exactly where your energy begins and where it ends. You know what you are responsible for and what you are not. You can feel someone's pain without taking it on. You can witness projection without internalizing it. You can hear words meant to wound and remain unshaken, not because you're numb, but because you're centered in a truth deeper than their story. To become unfuckwithable, you must first stop outsourcing your sense of safety. That means no longer waiting for the world to validate you, understand you, or agree with you. You must choose yourself again and again, even when it's lonely, especially when it's lonely. Because the dark chosen one walks through spiritual deserts, there will be seasons where you are stripped of all mirrors, all comfort, all support, and in those moments, you must become your own sanctuary. You must learn to regulate your nervous system with your breath, to ground your energy with your presence, to return to center no matter how loud the storm becomes. That's how you build inner integrity. That's how you anchor frequency. Let me ask you a question that most never even think to ask. How many of your problems are simply the result of energetic entanglement? How much of your anxiety, your fatigue, your confusion is not yours but the residue of others that you've unconsciously absorbed? When you are wired to feel deeply, you must also become skilled at clearing what isn't yours. This means daily energetic hygiene. Yes, daily. Just like brushing your teeth. Clean your field with sound, with smoke, with intention. Use water to reset. Use silence to recalibrate. Use solitude as your sacred reset button. If you don't, you will carry static. You will cloud your own signal. And that's when the parasites find you. Energetic parasites are not always entities or spirits. Sometimes they are people, systems, thought forms, algorithms. Anything that feeds off your attention, your emotion, your time without reciprocity is a drain. And as your light sharpens, the hungry will begin to swarm. They will come as lovers, as clients, as friends, as causes. They will appear in convincing disguises. And your job is not to save them. Your job is to discern them, to feel for the subtle tug that says, this is not love, it is extraction. And when you feel it, you don't need to explain. You don't need to defend. You simply withdraw your frequency. That is your power. You don't need to fight. You don't need to convince. Just reclaim your energy and redirect it to your mission. And that mission is not to be perfect. It's not to be pure, it's to be exact. Exact in your expression, exact in your boundaries, exact in your resonance. When you walk in that level of alignment, nothing can shake you. You stop reacting and start choosing. You stop absorbing and start transmitting. You become a field of coherence in a world of confusion. And people feel it. They might not understand it, but they feel it. That's when you stop being a person they can manipulate, and you start becoming a presence they respect. In the next part, we'll go deeper into what it means to embody your dark power fully, how to create, manifest, and lead from the shadows without losing your soul, and how to become the kind of force that doesn't just survive the chaos of this world, but reshapes it. At some point in your evolution as a dark chosen one, you stop asking for permission to exist. You stop dimming your light to make others comfortable. And more importantly, you stop hiding your darkness to fit into spiritual spaces that only worship the light. You begin to wear your shadow like a crown, not as a symbol of dominance, but as a symbol of integration. This is the moment you realize you're no longer here just to survive, to heal, or to escape the illusion. You're here to lead, to create, to build entire realities from the parts of yourself that once felt too strange, too broken, or too dangerous to love. But true leadership of this kind is not about power over others, attention, or applause. It's about energetic authority. It's about being so deeply embodied in your truth that the world begins to bend around your certainty, not because you forced it, but because your frequency reshapes the field. And here lies the paradox. You cannot lead from the shadow unless you've made peace with it. You cannot create from the depths unless you've learned to trust yourself in the dark. You cannot manifest from chaos unless you've learned how to hear the codes within it. This is the final phase of the dark chosen one's path, not to reject the world, but to remake it. You are not escaping the matrix. You are reprogramming it. And to do that, you must begin to view your entire internal world as a sacred design system. Your anger, its fuel. Your grief, its depth. Your fear, its direction. Your shame, it's a map. Every emotion, every shadow, every scar is not a flaw, it's a frequency signature waiting to be decoded and applied. When you stop seeing your inner world as something to fix and start seeing it as a tool for creation, everything changes. So how do you manifest from this place without losing your soul? You stay rooted in your why. You don't create to be seen. You don't lead to be admired. You don't build to prove anything. You do it because your soul cannot not do it. You do it because your voice is a frequency the world needs to hear. You do it because your vision is not entertainment, it's medicine. And when you create from that place, your work becomes alive. It moves through people. It activates them. Not because it's perfect, but because it's real. Let me ask you something. What would you create if you stopped trying to be understood? What would you speak if you didn't care who clapped? What would you build if you stopped asking for the algorithm's approval and started listening to your soul's assignment? That's where your true magic lies, not in the metrics, not in the applause, but in the uncompromised expression of your essence. And yes, it will be lonely at times. The deeper you go into your own design, the fewer people will be able to walk beside you. But the ones who can, they're not just friends, they're mirrors, they're co-creators, they're part of your sacred network. And they will find you not because you chased them, but because your frequency called them in. That's the beauty of leading from the shadow. You don't need to shout. You don't need to chase. You just stand in your sovereign signal, and the ones who are meant to walk with you will feel the resonance. This is what it means to wear the shadow crown. It's not about being above anyone. It's about being so deeply within yourself that you become a living symbol of what's possible when we stop running from our depth. You become the kind of leader whose very presence gives people permission to be fully themselves. You don't teach from theory. You embody the transmission. You don't compete. You create frequencies no one else can replicate. You don't force change. You become the change that reprograms the room just by walking into it. You are not here to fix the world. You are here to remember your power, integrate your shadows, and build a new world from the ground of your being. This isn't about light or dark. It's about wholeness. And you right now are a living channel for that wholeness to awaken in others. Wear your shadow crown, not with pride, not with ego, but with reverence. Because you didn't choose this path. It chose you. And now finally you're ready to walk it, not as someone seeking truth, but as someone embodying it, quietly, unshakably, unapologetically. You are the dark mirror. You are the hidden key. You are the sacred fire in the forest no one sees until they're ready to remember who they are. And now, they will.